Welcome again to downtown Singapore. My mission is to cycle places in the city like a tourist would and see what I've been missing right under my nose. By bike, of course. I realized I've been treating downtown like a commute. I mean, it is, but instead, I'll treat it like a destination this time. So here's to turning that around. Here we are, back at Marina Barrage, the exact spot where I filmed my very first cycling video for the channel. I can't believe it's been a year I started this channel with the goal of actually exploring Singapore by bike. The irony is I'm naturally a homebody who could happily stay indoors for weeks. Either I'm completely homebound or I'm flying off to some distant country. There's just no in between. There's been a gap in episodes since February. Health issues derailed things for a while, and ironically, it's what got me back on the bike in the first place. And that's a story for another day. But one lasting change is that I'm now strictly a decaf person. Today's focus is the downtown core, and I've decided to split it into two manageable sections. Today, we're tackling the west side of the business district, the part that's probably most familiar to office workers, but somehow still holds surprises for the rest of us. The route looks straightforward enough on the map, but then again, they always do until you're actually out there trying to navigate around construction, in crowds, and whatnot. If you are interested in following this exact route or planning your own, I'll drop the map link and Strava details in the description below. Fair warning though, what looks like a simple route on the screen might turn into a bit more of a real adventure. Not going through this without the authentic tourist experience, so I had my sister come along, who's about to experience one of the most ubiquitous services, bike sharing. You'll see both tourists and locals use these bright bikes all around town, and for good reason. Today, we're using yall, and while I won't dive deep into the how-tos, the beauty of these services is how accessible they make cycling for anyone who wants to explore the city on two wheels. It's one of those things that makes Singapore genuinely bike-friendly, whether you're a visitor trying to cover more ground or a local who doesn't want to deal with the bike storage, especially on a budget. I mean, I wish I had this 10 years ago. One of my favorite museums of all time is Art Science Museum. It's just one of those buildings that makes you stop and admire. The lotus-inspired design is striking enough, but what really gets me is how it manages to be both futuristic and organic at the same time. This place hosts everything from the major international exhibitions to cutting-edge digital art installations. I've been here countless times, and I'll always be fond of hours spent here indulging in escapism. we go. Not even properly started yet when I had this brilliant plan to kick things off with coffee from Bacha Coffee, I think it's called Basha, which has quite the reputation and supposedly serves decent decaf. Keyword being supposedly because they're still closed. Of course they are. I mean, this crazy early time would probably mean they're not open for service yet. As most of you might know, Singapore has this incredible coffee culture, and I promise we'll dive into that in another episode. But apparently, my timing is as questionable as ever. Already, this ride is not going according to plan, which, let's be honest, is becoming very on brand for me. The heartache from postponing that coffee is real though. By now, it's pretty well established that I have some kind of coffee dependency, even if decaf isn't anywhere near real coffee in terms of taste or that boost you're actually looking for. But I'm still in undefined attachment with coffee somehow. Disappointment aside, the agenda continues. Merlion, Singapore's most famous fountain, statue, maybe tourist trap. I honestly don't know what the proper term is, but every visitor to Singapore ends up here at some point getting quenched by its, well, I wouldn't want to water it down to a tap, but that's what it is. You go name it what you like. Broken shoes. Yep. There you see that. One particularly desperate morning at the office, I decided to venture beyond the usual coffee run to find actually decent decaf in the area. This is not a simple mission, but I was determined. Wandering through the maze of office buildings and food courts, eventually found a spot that not only served decaf, but didn't treat it like a consolation. Today's lunch stop feels like a familiar territory now, and you know you're truly downtown when office workers start swarming the place at exactly midday, all of us on the same predictable schedule. Just picking up another bike for my sister, and we are on our way to the next decaf stop. I would call this a proper decaf detour at Double Shot. And what a lovely experience this turned out to be. It's rare and surprising experience, I must say. Though don't count me on that since I rarely go out, remember? To have actual conversations with a cafe staff is unheard of. when I ordered my decaf, the barista took the time to explain where the beans were from. It's this unexpected human connections that make the coffee quest quite worthwhile, I must say, even when you're limited to the decaf side of the menu. We're about half a kilometer from Maxwell, and I suddenly realized we're approaching that dreaded 30-minute mark for the bike rental. Time to find parking and refresh the rental. Except, of course, I can't locate the QR code that would officially end this ride. Finally arrived at Maxwell Food Center, and we came here specifically for the fish soup that everyone raves about. But of course, they were closed today. So I gambled on some poutine dishes instead, which was disappointing, if I'm being honest. But it's fine. I'll chalk it up to next time I'll know better. But the whole experience got completely redeemed by the oyster egg omelette and chendol that I had for dessert. If you're visiting Singapore and you haven't tried chendol, you're genuinely missing out on one of the best desserts. I think in general this is a very good day for playing tourist in my own city, but I still needed that after lunch coffee fix, so I headed towards Rochor to try apartment coffee, which has excellent reviews and looks great for the ambiance. But of course, there were crowds, and after being second in the queue for all of 2 seconds, I realized there was nowhere to park the bike, and I hadn't brought a lock with me, and decided to try that for another time, another episode. Consider this unfinished business and a perfect setup for downtown ride part 2, because there's definitely more to explore here. Overall though, I genuinely enjoyed today's adventure, and I hope you did too. So if you enjoyed this slightly chaotic tour of Singapore's business district, let me know, because there's definitely more ground to cover. Or not let me know. No pressure both ways. Bye.